Oh, hi, Laci.
Hello everyone, this is Champion. Ugh! Damn it, I can't see a thing in this.
Question. Have you ever worried that someone was lying about rape?
Oh, I couldn't possibly wonder why I would have to worry about someone lying about rape. It's not like it's been in the news recently.
Every single time a woman comes forward about having been abused by a beloved movie star, musician, TV star, YouTubers.
Yeah, Laci, I think you need to know something. Two of these happen to be rumours. These are alleged things that happened. One of which actually changed. He did abuse women and he also abused men, John Lennon. Yet he changed, and when he met Yoko Ono, he changed and realised how horrible he was because he had quite a turbulent childhood. I'm not making any excuses for Lennon, but that's what happened. And as for Sean Penn, I do believe that's alleged, isn't it? I don't know if Madonna actually proved it. But most of these things that you have mentioned are alleged to have happened, not foolproof to have happened, and this is the problem that we have. But anyway, I'm going to say that till later. Besides, Laci, is it just me or are none of those guys actually rapists? Well, apparently Crosby is an alleged rapist, but he's not been proven to be a rapist. None of those other guys have a history of rape, it's just abuse. Oh, and I think the YouTuber's Tobuscus, and he's just recently been accused. I mean, that couldn't possibly be a reason why you're making this video. It couldn't be for the views. I'm sure you totally care about these victims. Well, alleged victims, that is.
That star's fans immediately accuse her of lying.
Laci, it's the complete opposite. The man is considered a rapist by loads of people and the public at large. You do realise that if this has gone through the public court first, rather than, the court of law, people tend to believe the victim because, people actually believe that a woman couldn't possibly lie about suffering such a heinous crime because, as we know, according to feminism, only men rape and women are only the victims of rape. Your whole thing that people will automatically accuse the woman of lying is absurd. People's fans are obviously going to defend whoever is being accused. It's just the way the internet works, is the way the world works. Some people are skeptical. That doesn't mean they're saying that the woman is lying or that the man is innocent. Some people are just skeptical, and that's healthy. That's what you need in situations like this. But hey, you know what? Listen and believe. Eh, Laci?
There are men's groups online that claim that women lie about rape 90% of the time.
Citation needed. And there are also feminist groups who claim that men rape 90% of the time and get away with it. Never mind the fact that none of us can prove whether or not women are lying 90-odd% of the time, or if men are committing rapes 90-odd% of the time. We just don't know, because 90-odd% of those crimes happen not to be reported. So we don't know what is going on, because mostly men aren't reporting rape, because they're not taken seriously, because men can't be raped under law, and let's not forget that some women don't report it for whatever reason, or maybe it never happened, or maybe they didn't consider it rape. Men or female, you just don't know. You just don't know. We have no idea.
A sheriff in Idaho very recently claimed that they don't need a better system for rape kits which collect evidence because most victims are liars.
Yeah, I'm sure this wasn't taken out of context. Totally not.
Majority of our rapes that are called in are actual consensual sex.
Yeah, thought so. This is the actual report. Link will be in the description down below. I just want to point out this full little bit in context.
All right, thank you. Not every rape kit in Idaho is sent off to a lab and tested. State lawmakers would like to change that. There's a bill that would create a statewide system of collecting and tracking the physical evidence in sexual assault investigations. Local News 8's Natalie Shaver talked to the Bingham County Sheriff about this. And Natalie, how does he feel about it?
Carol, he doesn't think it's necessary because every rape case is different.
I believe the legislature needs to take a strong look at allowing law enforcement to do their job and not trying to dictate what we need to do. I think that they're trying to help. I really do.
The proposed legislation would create a statewide system of collecting and tracking the physical evidence in a sexual assault case. Part of that bill would give clinics the responsibility of sending rape kits for DNA testing. That's unless the victim requests otherwise. Currently, law enforcement is in charge of deciding if a kit should be tested.
Are you getting the full story right now? In this county, or at least in the state of Idaho, there's been a law that wants to be passed where rape kits would be sent by clinics to laboratories rather than by law enforcement. I don't know the full ins and outs of the case, But it seems to me like they're trying to take the power out of the law's hands in handling rape cases. And that's kind of worrying to me. But let's continue with this footage, because this is where it gets juicy.
They need to let us decide if we're going to send the kid in and when we send the kids in. Because the majority of our rapes, not to say we don't have rapes, we do, but the majority of our rapes that are called in are actual consensual sex.
A sheriff in Idaho very recently claimed that they don't need a better system for rape kits which collect evidence because most victims are liars.
Does he look like he's saying that people are liars? He did say, yes, we do have some actual rapes. It gets juicier still.
Roland says after interviewing an alleged rape victim, police often find it was not actually rape. Things just went too far and someone got scared.
It's a 17-year-old girl, and she had consensual sex with her boyfriend, but didn't know how to tell her parents. Or her parents are mad because she did have consensual sex, and well, you couldn't have said yes, you had to have been raped. What does that do to her down the road? What does it do to her partner?
There you go. That's why he said what he said. Because we should let the law enforcement do their job. We should not be letting some third party try and dictate what they can do in regards to the fucking law. I know the police are not perfect. God knows, I know they're not perfect. But when it comes to situations like this, when it comes to rape, when it comes to murder, nobody outside of them should be investigating or dictating the investigation. This is what he was on about. The rape kits should not be sent to laboratories by some third party clinic. It should be by the police if they feel it is necessary, because as he said, not all accusations are true. And again, he never said anybody was lying. It was a misunderstanding or something went too far. He never said they were liars at all. That didn't even come out of his mouth. Yet Laci Green here, in order to parrot this feminist bullshit, has to lie to your face in order to make her version of reality reality. I mean, it's not the only time she's been caught lying or feminists have been caught lying about rape, but this is blatant. It takes barely 5 minutes of YouTube searching to find this. The thing is, this is a local issue. This is either, I don't know if it's in Idaho in general or just that one county where they seem to have a lot of cases where it's just consensual sex. I don't know if it's because it's a rural area, maybe they're very religious. I just don't know, but that's a local issue. This isn't necessarily a nationwide or worldwide issue. This could only be what happens in regards to rape allegations, etc. in his area. That has no bearing on everything else. Next.
And I mean, look, couldn't you or me or anybody in the world just make up a rape for attention?
Yes, and there has been documented evidence that this happened. For example, Jackie from the UVA case and Mattress Girl. 2 examples there where rapes were made up for attention. Who knows what kind of attention they really want? We don't know why they truly do it. But attention is definitely one aspect of that.
Get revenge out of jealousy, as Toby Turner's mom posted on Facebook. Yeah.
Why yes, that is also something that could happen. Mattress Girl, not only did she want the attention and the sympathy, also wanted revenge on Paul Nungesser because he rejected her. And this has happened time and time again throughout the years. This is not just a modern phenomenon.
You could totally do that, but would you do that? And how often does that actually happen?
Some women do it. Maybe some men do it, but I have no idea how many people do it. We have no idea.
The FBI states that between 2 and 8% of rape reports are false, which is actually a low number in the crime world. Other crimes, like say theft, they hover around 10% false reports.
That's because crimes like theft are completely different. There tends to be DNA evidence left around, which is a lot more easy to recover than a rape victim's DNA evidence or a rapist's DNA evidence, because it doesn't last long. A rape victim will have less chance of finding their rapist on CCTV than someone who has been robbed is far more likely to find the person who did it on CCTV and other things than a rape survivor. It's just one of those things. It's a very difficult crime, not only to prove someone's innocence, but also to prove their guilt. It's very hard to catch people, and that's why there's been so many people who have been falsely accused and falsely put in prison.
And even that 2 to 8% statistic is deceptive. It includes reports where someone accidentally identified the wrong person, reports that are thrown out because of inconsistent details, but it is a well-known fact amongst victimologists that trauma affects your memory. And
none of those things prove that it's deceptive or faulty. That's the reason why those numbers are the way they are. But even then, I can't really trust your numbers because you're skewing things and lying about things, Laci. But we're going to take those FBI statistics for sake of argument. You're right, maybe a trauma victim does have a skewed memory of things, but I do think they would know who the guy is because they're literally face first with them unless they're wearing a mask or something. But even then, that's not an excuse to just listen and believe. That means you have to be even more skeptical, right? Surely.
That 2 to 8% includes survivors who recanted. Someone could take it back because they were lying, sure, but much more commonly, they take it back because they're being pressured to take it back.
Citation needed. You have no idea if these women are being pressured to take it back, considering most people would be believing these women because they're women, because they claim to be rape victims, and people hate that crime, and that's why they always believe them. I find it hard to believe that they would be pressuring them to take it back. Surely they'd be clamouring for the guy to be hung. I'm just saying. That generally seems to be the case in all these rape allegations that I've seen, these public ones at least. Massive public outcry, wanting the guy to be arrested for doing this horrible crime, and then it turns out maybe he didn't do it.
Or because they've decided they'd rather just not deal with it.
Then why charge him in the first place? That just makes your claim even more spurious, doesn't it not, Laci?
So what does this mean? It means that malicious, actually false reports and allegations are pretty rare.
But the thing is, Laci, that's not necessarily true, is it? For the sake of argument, I was going to use the 2 to 8%, and I will do for this bit before I debunk it. Now, that's 2.8%. In 2009, there was 88,000, I'm rounding up the numbers here, 88,000 rapes reported. That means like 4.5 thousand men were falsely accused. That's a big number regardless. That should not be happening. That's still a terrible number, despite how many people are going to jail. Now, this is where I debunk this statistic, because it's frankly ridiculous. And the source is from Needy Feminist. Don't let the title of the blog confuse you. This is a very good article and sums it up perfectly. The widely accepted statistic for false rape accusations is between 2 to 8%, even though 14 out of 20 studies have placed them at a much higher rate. And as you can see here, 14 of all the studies claim the numbers to be much higher. So with Thalade and Thompson, I hope I got the name right, 1.5% is the minimum, 10% is the maximum. And the New York Rape Squad, a lot of these numbers are from a while back, but it makes you wonder, doesn't it? New York Rape Squad, 2%. Hirsch and Selkin, 2%. Kelly et al., 3% possible and probable false allegations. 22% recorded by police as no crime. Geis, 3 to 31% estimates given by police surgeons. Smith, 3.8. US Department of Justice, 8%. Clark and Lewis, 10.3. Harris and Grace, 10.9 as false malicious claims, 25% recorded by police as no crime. Leah et al., 11%. HNCPSI/HMIC, 11.8. McCahill, 18.2. Philadelphia Police Study, 20%. Chambers and Miller, 22.4%. Grace, 24%. Jordan, 41% false claims, 38% viewed by police as possibly true, possibly false. Kanan, 41%. Gregory and Lees, 45%. McLean, 47%. And Stewart, the highest out of all of these, 90%. So as we can see here, your statistic is nothing but an anecdote. It's been debunked time and time again, Laci. You're chatting shit. And even if that 2 to 8% accusation number is true, that is still a horrible number of men who are being falsely accused, and that in no way downplays the damage that it does to men. I have no idea how you can sit there and say that it's no big deal. Your FBI source is nothing to do with statistics, Laci. It's about how they changed their definition 3 years ago. That does not help your argument.
Yet, doubting someone, calling them a liar when they come forward is extremely common.
Oh really now? Citation needed.
Many of the reasons why we're inclined to doubt someone revolve around rape myths, myths about victims, and myths about gender.
Oh really? Myths? Are one of these myths how they couldn't possibly lie about rape? Oh, what am I talking about? Of Of course, people accuse people of lying all the time.
1, most perpetrators aren't greasy, creepy guys who hang out in the shadows. They're just regular people in our lives. When fans, friends, family, coworkers find out that someone that they know and love did something terrible, it can be really hard to grapple with and accept, and instead, they choose to deny it.
You're right. Not all rapists are people who hide in the bushes and wait for the opportune moment to strike. They tend to be, well, normal people. They're actually not normal. They're violent sociopaths who should be locked away. Normal people don't rape. Sociopaths and psychopaths, they rape. And you're right, family members are occasionally like that. They will defend them to the death because they can't live to see someone that they brought up to be that way. I'm sorry, but you know, that's what happens.
That halo effect around a perpetrator can be so strong that you can have cases like Cosby's where nearly 60 women come forward and report and people still don't believe that anything happened.
Yeah, you see, the reason why people don't believe them is because, one, it happened like, 40 years ago, maybe 50 years ago, and all the evidence is gone. They could have reported him when they had the chance. All the evidence is just disappeared. There's no DNA evidence. There's no way you can convict him. And also, a lot of their stories don't add up. Like, a lot of them consensually took drugs with him and at one point actually had sex with him consensually. And now they're saying he raped them. That's the difference. There is no aura around him where people are just denying everything. People look at their stories and think, no, no way. Maybe there's a few people who will blindly support him. But most people listen to these women's stories and just think, no, hell no. By most people, I mean Crosby's fans, that is, believe Crosby is guilty, even though there is literally no evidence against him. The only thing he is really guilty of is giving drugs to people, probably getting those drugs illegally. But at the end of the day, it was the women's responsibility to look after themselves, and they could have said, no, I'm not taking those drugs. I'm not victim blaming. I'm just saying it's your responsibility when you take drugs to look after yourself.
Sometimes the perpetrator even goes so far as to say, I didn't do it. They're lying.
Laci, they're not perpetrators until they're proven to be perpetrators. They're innocent until proven guilty. I know what you're trying to do here. You're trying to put into people's heads that these people are all rapists, even though some of the examples you mentioned were people who were abusers, not rapists. And you're trying to get it into people's heads that they're guilty before they're proven innocent. That is the wrong attitude to take, but that's what all feminists seem to do, at least from your side. Cosby, I know I said his name wrong before, Cosby is not a perpetrator, at least until we prove he is a perpetrator. He is innocent until proven guilty. Tobuscus is not a perpetrator until it is proven he is a perpetrator. Call them alleged perpetrators, okay? Because now you're making it look like rapists defend themselves, and it's so shocking. Well, of course they're going to say that the people lied. They have a right to defend themselves, and if accusing someone of lying is a defence, that is a defence. That is allowed in a court of law. It is a good argument to make, if you can prove it, that is. He who asserts must prove, I think, is a paraphrased phrase that is used in court.
This affirms people who don't want to believe that the sexual assault happened.
Or maybe he's just trying to defend himself. Did you ever think about that, Laci?
There are a lot of people, particularly in the States, who believe that in order for a rape to be real, you have to have reported it. And in order for that report to be true, a court must convict them as guilty.
Yes, those people are everywhere around the world, and they're called normal people who aren't tainted by feminism or any other kind of ideology that does this kind of shit. Now, a conviction, it does not necessarily mean that a rape occurred. Who knows? A rape could have occurred, but there's not enough evidence to convict the alleged rapist. Because, as I said before, it's very difficult to prove it. Especially if all the evidence is gone. Because the DNA evidence just does not last long enough. You have to report it straight away. You have to go into the police station and have tests done immediately. Because the longer you wait, the less time you have to report the rapist who raped you. So that is why a lot of people think the only way it could have happened is if you're convicted of it. If there's enough evidence. It's not just a simple fact that a conviction happened, it's that there's evidence, and it's not just one person's word over another, which sadly is most cases in a rape trial. It's one person's word over another's.
Now in reality, about 68% of victims of sexual crimes don't report, and only 2% of rapists ever see a day in jail.
Citation needed on that 60% figure, because that doesn't sound right. Also, By the way, that 2% figure is life sentences. They get convicted about 80% of the time. See, this comes from figures from 1992, which feminists have misled people on and have misread even. Basically, in the courts that year, 8 out of 10 rapists pleaded guilty, and they got the usual sentence of something like 8 to 15 years. Now, there is a debate as to whether or not that should be increased, but that's not the point here. 2% of them got life sentences. Somehow, that's become 2% of rapists are convicted. It's bullshit. It doesn't happen. Stop telling lies.
Does that mean that 98% of people are just lying? No.
It doesn't, in fact, but we don't even know what those 98% of figures are, yet feminists always do know what the 98% is. If false rape accusations are between 2 and 8%, how are the convictions therefore 2%? That doesn't make much sense, considering 8 out of 10 men plead guilty. Because the rape statistics, if you look between 1992 to about now, they've been declining, but they've been keeping up at relatively similar numbers. So from like 5,000 to about 4,000 something, if I can remember correctly. Your argument doesn't add up logically. Because if men are falsely accused between 2 to 8% and rapists are convicted 2% of the time, to use your statistics, that means more men are getting falsely accused. And that means that's a much more serious problem than you claim it to be. That means more women are lying than you claim to be. You see what I mean? Your argument makes no sense.
It means that our courts aren't arbiters of truth, and they're not always adequately equipped to handle sexual crimes.
But they're doing their jobs. It's an incredibly hard crime to prove in court. They're doing as well as they can do. Your statistics, which are lies anyway, don't prove that. In fact, my statistics prove that they are doing their jobs as best as they can. They're only human.
Then there are myths about how a real victim would act. In reality, there's no one response to sexual assault. Different people handle it in lots of different ways.
They're not myths when the victims themselves tell you about it. You see, a real victim goes to the police straight away and reports the crime. Now, there may be some cases where they will be unable to. For example, if it was done within the family, there might be some fallout from that, and maybe they've got very young kids who couldn't handle the pressure, so they don't do that. I can accept that not all victims will report the crime necessarily. But at the same time, as far as I know, all true rape victims do not go out and make a massive public display of it first before going to the police. The only time I've ever seen that when they were genuinely raped was after Jimmy Savile died. See, this was actually our Cosby thing in the UK, only he actually did something. He was a radio DJ and a TV presenter, and he used his massive wealth and power and connections to basically run riot and rape and abuse kids all around the country, and some other horrible acts that we won't mention. It was covered up by the government, the church, the Catholic Church to be precise, because he was Catholic, and the BBC, because he had such power and sway, and he knew all the top dogs. They were all friends, and plus he also kind of knew other paedophiles, and they would also help him and he would help them. There was a massive ring. There was evidence as well. And also, if you just look at the way he acted towards people on film and on TV, etc., etc., you could tell straight away he was. And there's even anecdotal evidence of my mum seeing him with a well-known paedophile in Manchester. That is the only time I've seen a public outcry actually come out with real evidence that he did do these crimes. In fact, also Gary Glitter was another one, but they were linked. But usually victims report it privately and move on, because as we can see, the police always tell you to keep it out of the public because it could jeopardise the trial or the investigation. People like Mattress Girl and Jackie and the current one who's doing it to Tobuscus, they're not victims because they're going out in public and trying him there before they either don't make any charges or they do charge him. It's what happened to Gian Ghomeshi. He got tried in the court of public opinion, declared guilty, goes to the court of law and is declared innocent because he had the evidence to prove that he was innocent. You see what I mean, Laci? You see what I fucking mean?
Another myth when it comes to men is the belief that men can't actually be raped. Men want sex all the time. He had an erection. He was into it. But an erection is not consent.
The one thing that you get right in this entire video, that men can be raped and an erection does not mean he's turned on or that he wants it. Thank you very much, Laci, for saying that. But It's too little too late, because the agenda is still very much clear. This is just an afterthought for you, isn't it? It's just to say, oh, don't worry, men can be raped too. We're all thinking about that now, when you had 40 years to make your minds up.
And increased blood flow can be a fight or flight response.
And a similar thing happens to women. They do get wet when they get raped. It's not because they're turned on, it's a natural biological reaction. I don't know if that's fight or flight, or just the act of penetration. But yeah, nothing to report there. I'll let you off the hook.
Lastly, one of the sneakiest and I think most pervasive reasons why people don't believe survivors is that most survivors are women.
No, that conflicts with everything that we read in the media, that what we see online, what we see in real life. Women are believed almost wholesale by society because they're women, and rape is usually committed by men on women. Why would they lie about such a horrible crime? Men are usually the ones who are disbelieved because, as I said before, the law states that men cannot be raped unless it's by another man. A woman cannot rape a man legally. Even though we know, in reality, a woman can, as you said before. Those men are the ones who aren't believed. The women are believed. The men aren't. A man is laughed at and told, you wanted it, like you said. Yet apparently it's the women who get it more, when that is not the case. Case in point, every single female paedophile who gets arrested for basically abusing young boys, mainly young boys, and young girls, everyone congratulates the kids, or even blames the kids. Like, oh, I bet it was the kids who wanted it. Yeah, the boys wanted it. I wish I had a hot female teacher who had sex with me, even though they don't know that she could have been grooming this guy and manipulating him, and maybe had stuff that he didn't want her to say because then he could get in trouble if he didn't have sex with her. You don't know any of these things. And a lot of these kids are as young as 11 or 10. This is how bad it is. And yet these women tend to get a slap on the wrist or no prison sentence whatsoever. Yet apparently women are not believed when they're victims of rape. That is absolute horseshit, considering the amount of evidence out there showing that it's boys and men who aren't believed. You admit it yourself. Yet somehow it's women. You fucking disgust me, Laci.
There are many subconscious sexist beliefs that we learn all throughout our lives that come in and inform our opinions.
Bullshit, Laci. You have sexist opinions. That doesn't mean everybody is born and socialized to be sexist.
That women lie a lot, we're not trustworthy, we're manipulative. You know, bitches be crazy.
You know, when you look at the news and how women are constantly getting away with raping young boys and men, how men are scared to even report women who have raped them, how lesbians aren't getting enough exposure for the rape that they have to deal with, or the abuse even that they deal with. The fact that all these women who lie about rape have the same pattern again and again, and they get away with it all the time. It makes a lot of men wonder, hey, maybe women are manipulative and liars. It makes sense, doesn't it, Laci? And you're contributing to the problem with this feminist bullshit. In fact, it's this feminist bullshit that has caused this state of affairs.
Those attitudes and biases within ourselves go unchecked. They absolutely do real damage.
A thought does not cause damage. An action causes damage.
But wait, what if it really is actually truly, really, truly false?
It's not a question of if. It does happen, Laci.
False reports are illegal, and they're typically taken pretty seriously when they surface. It's really, really important to talk about them, because ultimately, in this fight, we're fighting for justice, for everyone.
Oh really? If it's so illegal, how come Mattress Girl isn't getting arrested? How come she has an art gallery or some kind of exhibition with the fucking mattress and making some horrible porno? How come Jackie hasn't been outed yet? How come Lucy Decatur is probably going to continue her career as an actress, and all those other women who falsely accused Gian Gameshi? They're all going to get away with it. It's technically illegal in this country. As far as I know, I remember when I was a kid, there was a law put in place that a woman would be arrested and put in prison for that. But I've not heard anything about it ever since, and I've not heard any woman actually convicted for it, but I could be wrong. There may have been something. I was a kid. You're right, it is all about justice for everyone, so that the actual rape victims have their actual rapists in jail, and the man who was falsely accused is not proven guilty. He is instead proving his innocent, and that we stop this guilty until proven innocent thing that you're trying to put in there, because, you know, it's all well and good wanting justice, but your justice is the wrong justice.
So we need to pay attention in the rare moments that this happens.
No, not rare moments. your bullshit statistics moments.
To address them, to better understand them, and we do a whole lot of talking about false reports, which is why we also need to talk about the reality that sexual assault accounts are nearly always true.
We need statistics on that. I'm not denying it, they might mostly be true, hopefully, but you have to give me statistics on that, Laci.
How we more readily believe someone who says they've been robbed than they've been raped.
That's bullshit, because usually we can see the thief, we can see all the mess that he's made in the house, we can see the person on CCTV, there'll be loads of witnesses if it's in broad daylight. With rape, not so much. You're comparing, yet again, two crimes that are completely different.
Men are far more likely to be sexually assaulted than to be falsely accused.
Citation needed, please, especially since your statistics for false allegations are completely and utterly false.
How it's far more common that a survivor is convinced to back down by the public, friends, family, even the police.
Again, citation needed, because they're most likely believed. Look at all the stories. It's the boys and the men who are not believed. The women are believed almost all the time, 90% of the time. You're goddamn lying, Laci. Stop lying.
When something horrible did happen, we need to talk about how widespread myths and disbelief protect abusers and allow them to keep on abusing others.
Here's some bloody myths for you. Women can't rape, and the young boys definitely wanted to have sex with that female paedophile who groomed them.
If false reports are something that worries you, know that statistically, you're on the side of reason and justice and truth to believe someone who comes forward.
No, I am not on the side of truth and justice for listening and believing somebody. I am on the side of truth and justice if I remain skeptical, yet trust them to some degree. That's what a police officer does. That's what we should do. We should not just blindly believe these people. You claim that society blindly believes the rapists, when that's not true. This is the reason why cases like the UVA hoax and Jian Ghomeshi exist, because we listen and believe. We cannot do this because it turns out that some people are innocent and have been in jail for years and have had to put up with sexual abuse in prisons because rapists are so fucking hated. Laci, the only side I would be a part of is horrible vigilantism.
We need to be willing to face the truth, to approach justice honestly, even when the perpetrator is someone that we know and love.
Again, with the vigilantism and the guilt until proven innocent thing, Laci, we do not know if they're perpetrators. They're innocent until proven guilty. We have to prove they are perpetrators, not the other way around.
So to April Fletcher and any survivor who finds the strength to come forward on YouTube or beyond, I believe you.
Yeah, Laci, of course you do. You totally care about them. It's not about virtue signaling and point scoring. You've totally not made this video because Tobuscus has recently got into some heat. It's totally not because you're just a career feminist who just wants those points to make you feel good, is it? You will believe them even if they're proven to be false. You do realise that when they put it out there on YouTube and they put it out there in the press and on Twitter and on Facebook, it tends to be a lie because they've not sent it to the police. Usually that is the case. Laci, you would forego all the skepticism you claim to have, which you used to use against religion, in order to believe these rape victims. Because I personally don't think you would believe a male rape victim. But I could be wrong, I cannot read your mind. But I can certainly see you listening and believing for a woman, as you have done countless times, and have been proven to be wrong.
And one day I hope that the world does too.
The world already believes them, which is why a man is saddled with the reputation of a rapist, even if he's declared innocent. When he's proven it in court, and has all the evidence you could possibly imagine, they still don't believe him. Because the stigma is that big, it is that corroding and destructive. Cosby may or may not be innocent, but one thing is for sure, his career is pretty much over on television. He's just somebody nobody wants to work with anymore. He's gone, his reputation's in tatters. Doesn't matter if he's innocent or guilty, doesn't matter. Jian Ghomeshi will deal with the same thing. Paul Nungesser will deal with the same thing. The Duke Lacrosse people still have to deal with that. At the end of the day, the stigma is all that matters, isn't it? Because we can claim that, you know, false accusations are terrible. Oh, they don't happen that much. We still can't seem to solve this stigma. And we still have feminists saying, oh, we should teach men not to rape. We shouldn't teach women to protect themselves because that's somehow sexist. You know what? Sometimes I wonder, should we teach some women not to lie about these things because it's so destructive? That seems to me to be a lot more easy to do than to teach someone not to rape. I'm just wondering. Hypothetically, that is. And anyway, people, sorry for the long video. I didn't realise you would say so much bullshit in such little time. So I'll leave you at that. See you later.
United rhythm in my home.